I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. And I sure do love my job. Yeah. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. I'm born to preach the gospel. And I sure do love my job. Yeah. Yes, I really love my job. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Yes, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Let's get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Let's get firmly rooted. Firmly rooted. Let's get firmly rooted. Yeshua, 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 Yeshua. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. We're disciples that make disciples that make disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. Let's get firmly rooted. Firmly rooted.
Rooted Men, good morning. Pastor G, happy Thursday morning, and hope you guys are doing well. Glad you're here. Man, we had quite the wind last night. It was just gusting. Man, felt like at least 50, 60 miles an hour. And I go downstairs at like 2 a.m., turn on the television, and there's nothing. There's no alerts or anything. And my wife and I, we were just kind of realizing that, okay, this is, we're not in Minnesota anymore. This would have been a high alert in Minnesota, but this is, I guess, pretty normal in Greendale, Indiana. So getting used to the wind. But anyway, hope you guys had a good night. Let's see. We've got Ed Pilla joining us on Facebook. Ken Gooch on Facebook. Good morning. Bobby Roop. Good morning, men, on Facebook. And we've got, I think that's what we got for now. Well, guys, we've got a doozy of a passage this morning. I want to first begin by stating that I've made some highlights here for two translations of the Bible that I want to just compare and contrast here. We're going to be looking at the use of the word "Son of Man." This is something that I've thought often about. So this is not the first time. I just didn't think of this when I got this devotion. I've done a lot of sort of research over the years on this, and the issue has to deal primarily with whether or not the translators chose to sort of modernize the word man. So obviously we know that by and large, when the Bible speaks of men, it's speaking of human beings, that it's speaking of humankind. And so most of our modern translations will translate it as people or them. But there are occasions, certainly, where it is important, I believe, to keep the masculine translation of men, and I think we're going to see a case of that today. So it's this is my sort of read on it. Not expecting you guys to take the same read necessarily, but I would love for you to do your own research. Kind of how does this feel to you? Does this seem right, or do you think I'm off? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But the issue at stake here is a passage from the Old Testament, a passage from the Psalms that the writer of Hebrews, again, we don't know who this is, but the writer of Hebrews, he quotes Psalm 8. And in Psalm 8, David speaks of the Son of Man. Now again, in the context of the passage, I think it's fair that people could look at that and see David as referring to human beings. But I guess I'm a little cautious, and I want to kind of put on the brakes and say, I don't know that we can be that quick to just sort of retranslate into our modern vernacular based on, the sort of the political winds that would favor a, more egalitarian society here. Of course, I just want to get this out there. I believe that men and women are created equal. I do believe we have different roles. I think that's clear. I think the Bible lays that out. But I, in no way am I trying to promote sort of a male chauvinism here at all. I think Jesus made it quite clear that women were very much a part of his ministry. So just want to get that off the bat. But let's look at this. And I also want to preface this by just saying, let's think about the context of chapter 1 of Hebrews that Matt took us through, and Steve took us through, and then I took us through briefly yesterday. What was pretty much the whole first chapter about? Well, it was about that the Son, meaning Jesus, is superior to the angels. Okay, so we right off the bat we have that theme that we are talking about Jesus being superior to the angels. And so as I now go into chapter 2, I am seeing that theme continued. And I think we're going to see here a quite the stark contrast now between two translations. We've got on one hand, we've got the NIV 84, which keeps the masculine pronouns. That's the version I grew up on. I believe it's the passage that you guys use in Oxford. It's the passage they've been using here at Greendale for many years. I really like the translation. It's not perfect, but it's one that I feel very comfortable with. The modern NIV that came out in 2011 changes most of the masculine pronouns to the plural. So it's but again, just changing it to the plural really creates some difficulties when the passage is specifically in the singular to us as individuals and not to us as a group. But that's a whole other topic. The reason I didn't contrast the NIV 84 with the NIV 2011 is because I actually appreciate the NIV 11 keeps Son of Man. They don't go as far as the NRSV, which translates Son of Man as mortals. So let's look at it, and we'll see if the Lord might show us anything here. So it looks like we got Bert Reggiani and Steve Ponoworski jumped on. Good morning, guys. All right, so verse 5. It is not to, and I'll read first in the NIV 84. It is not to angels that he has subjected the world to come, about which we are speaking. Okay, and now let's go over to the NRSV. Now, God did not subject the coming world about which we are speaking to angels. So we're all good there. We're on the same page. Here's where the two roads diverge. Verse 6. I'll read first in the NIV 84. But there is a place where someone has testified, what is man that you are mindful of him? Okay, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to pick up the NRSV, verse 6 on the right side. But someone has testified somewhere, what are human beings that you are mindful of them? Okay, so again, I'm going, that's overall, that's pretty fair game because man is typically seen as referring to both men and women. But here's where the issue comes. All right, when we are so quick to retranslate it according to what to our modern vernacular. Picking up at the NIV 84, the Son of Man that you care for him. All right, now we've got a real issue because of the reference that Jesus uses of himself as the Son of Man. Okay, so what does the NRSV say? Or mortals that you care for them. That's a problem in terms of my read. Okay, suddenly you have a completely different appropriation here. NIV 84 is appropriating this to Jesus. The NRSV is appropriating this to us. Okay, we are not the same as Jesus. I think it is absolutely undeniable that the writer of Hebrews would have known that Jesus referenced himself as the Son of Man, that he was prophesied as the Son of Man, that other writers have referred to him as the Son of Man. John does as well. So let's go on now. All right. Verse 7 in the NIV, you made him a little lower than the angels. You crowned him. And by the way, all that means I don't see that in any way as referring to God creating Jesus, before the beginning of time. I think that is certainly speaking of Jesus's incarnation, that you and the NRSV even adds for a little while you've made him lower than the angels. Okay, but now he is crowned in glory and honor, which the NIV goes on to say, you crown him with glory and honor. Okay, but how does the NRSV translate it? You made them for a little while lower than the angels. You crown them with glory and honor. And that just doesn't sit right to me. Are we crowned with glory and honor? Ugh, I'm really, that's hard for me. That's very hard. And now verse 8, NIV, left side, and put everything under his feet. Okay, I would just stop right there. I love Psalm 2, which talks about that let's see, Psalm 2. Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth take their stand and the rulers gather together against the Lord and against his anointed one. There it is, Messiah. Let us break their chains, they say, and throw off their fetters. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. Then he rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath, saying, listen to this, I have installed my king, meaning Jesus, on Zion, my holy hill. I will proclaim the decree of the Lord. He said to me, you are my son. Today I have become your father. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. You will rule them with an iron scepter. You will dash them to pieces like pottery. Therefore, you kings, be wise, be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you be destroyed in your way. For his wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. All of that is speaking of bowing down to the Son's feet. Okay, this is not to our feet; it's to the Son's feet. And so in Psalm 110, I believe, also confirms that of putting everything, you've made the nations a footstool for your feet. Okay, we don't get that privilege. That belongs to the Messiah. All right, but what is the translation of verse 8 in NRSV? Subjecting all things under their feet, meaning us. Okay, now going back to NIV, in putting everything under him, God left nothing that is not subject to him. And again, NRSV translates on the right, God left nothing outside their control as it is. We do not yet see everything in subjection to them. Well, my other question is, why wouldn't the NRSV just say us? you know, why couldn't you just say, why wouldn't the translation then be, God has not left anything outside of our control, right? Why does he have to still say their control? So to me, that doesn't add up. All right. Good. We've got a comment here. Bobby Roop says, Bobby, my opinion is that the author is referencing scripture from Psalms in verses 6 and 7, and that scripture is speaking solely of men. He then explains the humanity of Christ by drawing a comparison to men in verse 9. Right, Bobby, exactly. And that's a fair game. But I think the as I'm trying to explain, to me, we have the challenge is that we've got more than just a couple of verses here that would speak of Jesus. To me, beginning at verse 5, we're speaking about Jesus. That's just my take. But brother, your interpretation is certainly a valid one. It's one that comes up in commentaries, so I'm in no way dismissing it. But let me just finish here. So then in verse 8, verse 9. So verse 9, and this is what Bobby's talking about. So here's where most of those who believe that we can sort of have your cake and eat it too, it comes back around to Jesus. So here's the NIV in verse 9. But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels. I'm reading on the left-hand side, NIV, now crowned with glory and honor. Okay, and now here's what the NRSV does. Right side, verse 9. But we do see Jesus, who for a little while was made lower than the angels, now crowned with glory and honor. So it does bring it back to him. My take, though, is that you've missed verses 5 through 8 that I believe are referring to him. I think, to me, I don't see how you can just sort of save all of that by then mentioning Jesus. I'm glad that they do. I'm glad that the NRSV, which is much more liberal translation, doesn't omit Jesus at all. It's a challenge. They've taken out some of the references to his miraculous birth and other things. So I have some other issues with the NRSV. But there it is, guys. There it is. Again, not something to divide over, but I do think this is something to truly challenge our critical, reading of the text and to go, okay, what's the lens, what's the hermeneutic we're using? That happens to be mine. Again, I have absolute confidence that there are many good, solid commentators and translators that are reading a little different way. But I do think I would say, for me, I'm much more comfortable with the NIV 2011 that keeps Son of Man in there in verse 6. I think, to me, it's a real challenge to retranslate Son of Man to mortals, simply because of the fulfillment of that word, Son of Man, that we have so often throughout the New Testament, and Jesus himself referencing himself as the Son of Man. So what's the come away? What's the takeaway from this, guys? I think for me, I would just say let's be cautious. Let's be cautious to retranslate all of the sort of the antiquated language of the Bible, just because we're living in modern times. I think yes, there's certainly, we can make a case for retranslating words and making words plural where they were singular, but I think in a case like this, for me, that's a concern, because it does lead to, as you could see, a very different translation of 4 verses. One is about Jesus, the other is about us, and that's, to me, where I think we need great caution. So, guys, I hope that's a blessing to you. Again, not at all saying that this is that men and women are not equal, but it is to say, hey, let's be careful that we don't just go with the winds of society that is, has suddenly been so enlightened and sees everything from a new perspective. We need to make sure that if we do change, we are doing it from a biblical standard, and we're doing it with the blessing of the Lord. So there it is, guys. Let's see. Bobby says, you're hurting my feelings. Totally kidding, brother. Good stuff. This is a difficult book. Yeah, amen. No, this is why we talk about this in a way that brings us all to the table. This is not something that we ever need to divide over. But yeah, good to talk through. Thanks for being on, Bobby. Hey, my brother Christopher Byers, Pastor Chris, out in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Good morning, Russ. Good morning to you, Chris. Yeah, would love your take, Chris. I think you jumped on a little later, but would love your, as a pastor, love to hear your take on Hebrews 2:5-9. All right, guys, that's what I had. I hope you have a blessed, firmly rooted day. May someone see Jesus in us today. I'll be back for Strengthening Our Roots at 8:30 here in just a few minutes, and then for prayer time. So if I don't see you guys, I will catch you next week. I believe we've got, let's see. Yeah, tomorrow, I believe, would be Steve jumping on here. So that'll be great. Always look forward to your teaching, Steve. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on.